Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the Governor of the great state of Louisiana, Honorable Bobby Jindal. The Honorable Bobby Jindal, Governor of the great state of Louisiana.
Thank you all very, very much. Thank you. Mr. President, Mr. Speaker, statewide elected officials, members of the legislature, the people of the great state of Louisiana. Thank you, first of all, for that very warm welcome. It is certainly an honor to be here with you again. Well, here we are. Moment so many of us have been waiting for a very long time. My last State of the State speech. No, that was not supposed to be an applause line. But I do appreciate your restraint. I'd like to start by asking you to think back 10 years ago, about the time that Hurricanes Katrina and Rita hit our state. Louisiana was at rock bottom. Our economy was stagnant. We had over 2 decades of out-migration, with more people leaving Louisiana than moving here. Jobs were scarce, and the future didn't look so bright. And then the storms hit. You actually had national political leaders suggesting that maybe New Orleans shouldn't even be rebuilt. We lost more than 1,000 of our citizens, our parents, our children, our neighbors, our friends in those storms. Many thousands more who did survive left the state. It's been said that you can really know the true character of a people only when the going gets rough. What happened next showed the true nature of the people of Louisiana. We are fighters. We never give up. We all came together to bring Louisiana back. Fast forward today. You see a far different picture of Louisiana. You see the true greatness of our people. Together, we rebuilt, and we are today stronger than we have ever been. Together, we cleaned up our ethics laws so that now what you know is more important than who you know. Together, we reformed our education system so that now we provide choices and hope for children who were previously trapped in failing schools. Together, we reformed our healthcare system so that now it takes 10 minutes to fill a prescription rather than 10 days. Most importantly, today our economy is booming. We have more people living in Louisiana than at any time in our state's history. More people working in Louisiana than at any other time in our state's history. We have 90,000 more private sector jobs from companies that have expanded in our state. We have many more on the way. At the same time, we have balanced our budget every year. We cut taxes, and we've received 8 credit upgrades. Now, I want to stop here and acknowledge a few things. First, you may have noticed that I use the term we and not I. And that's on purpose. There's really not much that any of us can accomplish on our own. Without all of us pitching in, without all of us working together, none of this would have happened. Second, none of this has been easy. We all bear the scars to prove that. The way I figure it, it's really not hard to be a popular politician. All you need to do is not rock the boat. All you need to do is not change anything, spend all your time kissing babies and cutting ribbons. But what is the point in that? That is not why we were elected. We all came here to serve our fellow citizens, to make our state a better place to live, to thrive, to achieve the American dream. Some of us have different perspectives on how we reach that goal. But I believe we all want the same things for the people in our state. I also want to acknowledge that a lot of what we have done has been controversial. Many of us in this room have had big disagreements. Reform is always controversial. Democracy is always messy. But the end result has been a stronger, more prosperous Louisiana for our children. I also want to acknowledge there's much left to do. As long as we have people looking for work and not finding it, we have more to do. I know my critics contend that we have cut taxes too much, that we've cut government too much. I respect that opinion, but I don't agree with it. It's an honest difference of approach, and I think we can achieve more if we respect each other's views. I measure Louisiana's prosperity not by the prosperity of our government, but rather by the prosperity of our people. The truth is that none of us works for government. In fact, no government worker works for the government. All of us, elected or not, work for the people of the state of Louisiana, and it is an honor and a privilege to do so. I also want to acknowledge what you all already know. I haven't done everything perfectly. Now, in politics, everybody gets dug into a corner to the point where they pretend they're always completely right. Their opponents are always completely wrong. But I think that's a mistake. Now I want to highlight the three things of great importance in this session as we begin this legislative session. First, what's on everybody's mind? The budget. We must balance our budget without raising taxes on our people. It is their money, not ours. Now, I know there's heartburn in this room, in the media, and probably with some of your constituents about the budget challenge we face this year as a result of falling oil prices, along with our refusal to raise taxes the past several years. But I have the utmost confidence that we're going to come together, make smart reductions to the size of government where we can, and yet again have another balanced budget that doesn't raise taxes. Now, the easy way out for politicians is simply to raise taxes. If we were in Congress, we could just print more money, we could borrow more from the Chinese. But we don't live by Washington's rules of kicking our debts down the road. When it comes to raising taxes, we know that when government takes more of our people's hard-earned money, our economy lags, job growth lags, and we put families in a tight spot. I'd rather have the government cut its budget than force families to cut their budgets. It all comes down to this. Do we think we can spend our citizens' money better than they can? For one, I do not. Now, that being said, I know that government provides some vital services. I want those services protected, provided they're running efficiently and not being wasteful. That is why we have laid out a budget proposal that seeks to protect higher education, health care, and other important government functions by going after wasteful state spending and our tax structure. The truth is, today we have a system of corporate welfare in this state. Our businesses are a great asset, but we cannot stand idly by while companies pay zero in state taxes and then continue getting free taxpayer money from the government on top of it. If companies are getting checks from the taxpayer as opposed to paying taxes, then that is government spending that needs to be examined and reduced. It would be wrong for us to impose cuts to higher education in order to protect this corporate welfare. We have identified over $500 million of corporate welfare spending that we think should be cut to help protect higher education and health care. Now, I know there are some in this chamber that will want to reject cutting corporate welfare and instead try to raise tax rates or eliminate other tax credits that help a business lower its tax liability. But I hope we remember how we got to this point where we are today, where we have more people working with higher incomes than ever before. We didn't get here by raising taxes or by expanding the size and scope of government. We got here by drastically lowering taxes and empowering growth in Louisiana's private sector. It's true that fiscal responsibility isn't easy, but it works. I'm proud to say our economy is bigger, the government is smaller, and our state is stronger than ever. I know if we stick to the principles that got us here, we will continue this trend. Now, the second issue I want to talk to you about today, I want to talk to you about education reform. In my very first year as governor, we worked together to create a school choice program for the children in New Orleans. Every year since, we have come back here and we have worked together to implement some of the most comprehensive and ambitious reforms in our state's history. It was difficult work, but our children are the beneficiaries of that work. This is an issue I care deeply about. It's why I'm here to tell you that in this session, we have to get rid of Common Core. This is not a debate about high standards. I'm all for high standards. I think we all are. This debate has nothing to do about that. This is about the federal government deciding that they need to set the standards for us because we are not sophisticated enough to do it on our own. This is a question of federal control of education. This is about federal coercion with the federal government attempting to blackmail us with our own tax dollars. This is about the federal government finding a backdoor way to dictate curriculum to our state and to every state. I've met with the parents. I've met with teachers. I've read the flood of letters to the editors of local papers begging the education establishment to listen, to slow down, to reevaluate Common Core. I know this firsthand from sitting down and doing homework with my kids. Today, we're at a crossroad. We have a choice regarding who will run education in Louisiana. Will it be Louisiana parents and teachers, or it will be the federal government? I don't know about you, but I will take teachers and parents every chance I get. Now, let's be clear what this debate is about. I care deeply about high, rigorous standards. They were embedded in me at an early age. My dad's here, and he can tell you this. He wasn't happy when my brother and I, when we brought home straight A's. If we got a 95%, he wanted to know what happened to the other 5%. I brought that same mindset to education reform in Louisiana. We've made increased rigor and achievement the central pillars of our reforms. We raised accountability for teachers while increasing professional development. We raised accountability for our schools, graded them, and held them responsible for their own growth. As a result, in the last 6 years, Louisiana has seen unprecedented gains in education. Our graduation rates are at an all-time high. We've cut the number of failing schools in half. But just as important as our educational improvement is the way in which we achieved it, by expanding choices for parents, not limiting them, demanding equal opportunity in education. These are hallmarks of education reform with proven results all over the country. Yet the federal government is only interested in rewarding adherence to a nationalized set of standards. I believe that we can pass legislation that makes clear that the federal government or third parties do not have control over Louisiana's schools, and help ensure that Louisiana parents and teachers create Louisiana standards and curriculum. I believe this session that we can come together on a plan that removes Common Core from Louisiana and replaces it with high-quality Louisiana standards. Third, there's a nationwide push by the far left to weaken the First Amendment to the Constitution. Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion or prohibiting the free exercise thereof, or abridging the freedom of speech. We either believe in religious liberty or we don't. In Louisiana, I believe that we do. I know there has been legislation filed this session that aims to protect religious liberty rights right here in Louisiana. Now, let me be crystal clear. I absolutely intend to fight for the passage of this legislation and any other that seeks to preserve our most fundamental freedoms. But let me also be clear about something else. In Louisiana, we do not support discrimination, and we do support religious liberty. And we believe that we can uphold both of these values simultaneously. But the truth is, this should not be a conservative versus liberal debate. Last I checked, we were all in favor of the Bill of Rights. And here in Louisiana, as long as I'm your governor, we will protect religious liberty, and we will not apologize for doing that. I want to directly address the legislation that was filed to protect those freedoms in Louisiana. Let's clear up some falsehoods about the bill that we've already started to hear. All this bill does is provide necessary protections for individuals to prevent adverse treatment from the state based on religious beliefs regarding marriage. This legislation does not allow a restaurant or industry to refuse service to a gay or a lesbian person. The law merely ensures the state cannot deny a license, certification, accreditation, or contracts to a person or a business on the basis of their sincerely held religious beliefs about marriage. It does not provide a right for a business owner to discriminate against gays or lesbians. I think we can all agree that the government should never force someone to participate in a marriage ceremony against their will. People, charities, and family-owned businesses should not be penalized because they believe in the traditional definition of marriage. Now, regardless of your beliefs about the definition of marriage, we should all respect the right of our neighbors to hold a different view. There used to be bipartisan support for the principle of religious liberty. However, these days, some think diversity of belief is too risky, too scary to be tolerated. But that's wrong. In America, we should celebrate diversity of belief. Diversity of belief and religious liberty are the foundation of our law and Constitution, and they must be protected. In the United States, a state should not be able to take adverse action against an individual for holding a sincerely held religious view regarding marriage. Now that would be true discrimination. As I come to the conclusion of my last State of the State, I want to make a few personal observations. I want to do this, first of all, by recognizing three special groups of people that are here today. Many of you may have noticed that we have three special guests. Last year I told you I'd be bringing my children for the first time to my final State of the State. I'd like to ask my children, my daughter Celia is 13 years old. She is here with her brother Sean, who turned 11 on Friday, and her youngest brother Slade, who is 8. I would like them to stand. I'd ask you to please recognize them with a round of applause. You can turn around and say hello. Thank y'all very much. The reason I asked them to come today, and I know it breaks their heart they had to miss school to be here. I know this was a big sacrifice. Celia was 6, Sean was 3, Slade was 1 when I took my oath of office as your governor for the first time. The reason I ran for office in the first place was my children. The reason I wanted to be your governor, I'm so grateful for this opportunity, is I wanted to work with you to create a better Louisiana for all of our children and grandchildren. I was born and raised here, and I'm tired. I was tired of seeing for too long our best and brightest have to leave this state to pursue their opportunities, their dreams. So I want to thank you. It has been a privilege to work with you to create opportunities not only for them, but all of our children and grandchildren. And I believe it is what motivates us to be here today and through these weeks of this session. Now, I will say this about Slade. We sat down with the kids last night, told them they had to wear their best clothes, told them they had to behave, told them we were going to check them out of school today at lunch. And today, when Supriya was gathering them and had them to get into their good clothes, she told Slade, the 8-year-old, now you're going to the Capitol. And a light bulb went off in his head. He goes, well, that makes sense, because all day long yesterday we told him he was coming to the house, and he had no idea why he had to dress up to go to the house. So now he understands why we're here. The second person I want to recognize is not only my best friend, my partner, the love of my life, but your First Lady, Supriya Jindal. We are going to be celebrating 18 years of marriage later this year. If you would please stand, if you'd please give Supriya Jindal a great round of applause. Thank you for that. I couldn't be here today without her love and support, and I want to especially thank her for the work she has done going to schools in every part of the state, bringing technology and donations and resources to help our children get a better education. I want to thank her parents, my father-in-law, my mother-in-law, for their love and support. They've been at every State of the State speech, and they also many years ago allowed me to marry their beautiful daughter. So thank you for your love and support as well. I want to close by recognizing my parents. Now, my dad is here today, and I want to thank him for being here. Many of you may have noticed that for the very first time, my mom is not here. She's been at every inauguration. She's been at every State of the State speech. I want to tell you that she is at home recovering from surgery. Now, this is the first time that I'm publicly speaking about this, but a month ago when we got the diagnosis, I'll be honest with you, this is something that's been weighing on me every day. But here's the good news. We believe in a God that answers prayers. We believe in a loving God. So I would just ask you to keep her and my dad in your prayers and your thoughts. I wouldn't be here without their love and support. My mom is my biggest cheerleader, and I know she's watching at home this speech. So thank you, Mom, for all that you've done for me. I want to close with this observation. Last year I told you about my parents' story. Told you about the fact that over 40 years ago, they got on a plane for the first time. My dad brought his pregnant wife to Baton Rouge, Louisiana. My dad, who's lived the American dream, one of 9 kids, only wanted to get past the 5th grade. Grew up in a house without electricity, without running water. It amazes my kids, there was no Google, there were no computers, there was no online search. They hadn't visited Louisiana before. They had never met anybody who had been to Louisiana that could go back to India and tell them what it was like. Nobody that could tell them about the people, the food, the culture, the temperature, nothing. And they came anyway. And they came to an idea as much as they came to a place. They came to the idea of the American dream, where you could find freedom and opportunity. I want to start by thanking the great people of Louisiana. The state of Louisiana has been very good to my family and to me. LSU took my mother in. My dad got his first job by calling through the Yellow Pages until somebody from a railroad company hired him sight unseen. And here I am, over 40 years later, privileged to serve as a governor of this great state. And it is my hope and it is my dream that my children, your children, our grandchildren can find the same opportunities that brought my parents halfway across the world here in the first place. That Louisiana will continue to be that beacon of opportunity for all of our children and grandchildren. I'm proud we have made great progress to making Louisiana that place, the best place in the world to raise a family and create good-paying jobs. We've made dramatic progress these last 7+ years together, but we're not done. We've got more work to do, and I know this will be a productive session, and we will leave our state stronger for the time that we spend together in this building. And for that, I'm grateful to you. So thank you for your service. Thank you for these last 7+ years. I'm looking forward to having a strong final session. God bless you. God bless the people of the great state of Louisiana. God bless the United States of America. Thank you all very, very much, and good luck in the coming days and weeks.